Big time breaking news dropping out of the NFL. We will let you know what's going on with the gambling saga and the gambling scandal that has taken everybody by storm. We'll break that down for you, tell you who's involved, and what the ramifications of it are. We'll talk about that next on the Locked On Browns podcast.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode, as we close out the week here on Locked On Browns, is brought to you by HelloFresh. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Go to HelloFresh.com/NFL60 and use the code NFL60 for 60% off plus free shipping. Jeff Lloyd at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd. Of course, Mr. Garrett Bush at GBush91, part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, 92.3 The Fan on air personality. You can catch G over on a Fan tomorrow morning. Guards, Cavs, of course, Browns 1 week away from the NFL draft. G Bush has got you covered there. Closing out the week here, we're going to continue with our Draft Bust series, but G Bush, let the fine folks know what we got in store for them all today.
Well, yeah, we're definitely going to get in our bust, and we're going to go to one of the wide receivers that made his debut on Hard Knocks and really showed why he was not ready for the big times. We'll talk about which Brown came in at number 2 on the bust list since 2010. Then we will definitely get into, generally speaking, we do the mock drafts and we get to some of our players that we're going to be picking and shadow and highlighting for the NFL draft. We'll get to our picks of who we do not need to see taken. we need thank
you.
We don't want any of we do not want to see any of these positions pop up at 74 and 98. We'll tell you what 4 positions those are. We might even have a little debate on our hands as well with the last one. But first, Jeff, let's get off into the scandal and the story that really shocked and rocked the NFL right now. If you guys are not hiding, if you guys are hiding under a rock, don't know what's going on, that's how we got you covered. Let's take a look at this. And this is Ian Rappaport on the NFL Network talking about this scandal, the gambling scandal. Major players and coaches in the league have been suspended by the NFL for violating the gambling policy. Let's take a look at what Ian Rappaport has been reporting.
That are suspended. Here's my understanding of how this went down. The 3 players that are suspended at least a year, suspended indefinitely, were believed to have gambled on NFL games. Obviously, that is what we saw with Calvin Ridley as well. That's what warranted the major suspension. That is why those players have the ability to reapply, but only after a year. The 2 players, which are Stanley Berryhill and which are Jamison Williams, they are believed to have gambled on college games, but from their facility or from another place associated with their NFL team. Perhaps the locker room, perhaps the bus. That also is not allowed. And that is a part of this rule that I think there's a lot of education being done on right now with agents and teams disseminating info, letting players know that even though it is a college game, they're not allowed to place a bet on it if it is from the facility or if it's something associated with the team. So that is why it breaks down that way. As far as the specifics of why these 4 players, that as of right now is unknown. But what we know, 5 players, including 4 Lions, significant suspensions for violations of the NFL's gambling policy.
You take a look at that, and this is a article. This was on NBC.com, and actually it was on Twitter as well. And talks about while the league was short on details and insisted no games were compromised by the players' alleged wagering. As you can see, Ian Rappaport did say that some of the games were bet on college. The gambling policy, which is annually reviewed with all NFL personnel, including players, prohibits anyone in the NFL from engaging in any form of gambling in any club or league facility or venue, including the practice facility, according to the league. A league review uncovered no evidence indicating any inside information was used and that any game was compromised in any way. Jeff, when we take a look at this, it's a really big deal. Obviously, one of the biggest scandals that ever hit baseball was the Pete Rose situation. In my personal opinion, I think Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame. However, the league has really done a good job to ensure that the games and the integrity of the outcome of the games are not in question. A lot of people don't understand. Well, hey, gambling is legal, perfectly legal in these places. Sports gambling is legal for the first time in Ohio, so we've seen a lot of those entities there. However, players are different because they control the outcome of the game. Those guys could possibly control whether or not people believe that the sanctity of the game is for real or not. So the league is very tough on making sure that people don't have any access to inside information, that the games are the games on the field. However, it's just difficult sometimes for people to understand how is it that the league is and everybody else is really profiting off of wagers, gambling, fantasy football, all these different things. However, the players can't partake in it. And I just say, well, that's just the reality of the situation. If you're a politician, there's certain ways and regulations that you have where you can accept different campaign finances, different donors and there's rules and regulations about all of that. So it's the same with players. They are the ticket. And they do this so that people have faith that the games aren't rigged or compromised. Jeff, your thoughts on these suspensions? Is a year too long for the individuals? And do you think the league came down a little heavy-handed?
Well, I mean, the rules are the rules. And as you put up with what you showed, this is reviewed annually. Look, I mean, I don't know why anyone thinks just because legalized sports gambling has become a phenomenon in this country, why anything has changed with a professional athlete. You were told. You know this. You were absolutely 110% in the know. You know you were not allowed to do this. It's a poor look when a coach like Miles Austin gets caught. It's a poor look when a top player who's probably being counted on heavily for the Detroit Lions and Jameson Williams is now going to miss the first 6 games of the season because he did something that he knows damn well he has no right to do. I mean, come on. I mean, it's obviously been around sports forever. It is forbidden. And look, if it comes down to, Jameson Williams' contract got to be what? Probably anywhere $18-20 million guaranteed. Guess what? It comes with one caveat. Bro, don't gamble on sports. And the other thing is, and I don't even know how they can track this. Jameson Williams, my guess is probably put a wager on Alabama or Ohio State, and he has friends at Ohio State, obviously played for Alabama as well.
Yep.
Well, you can do that, apparently, if you play in the NFL. You can do it from your house. You can't do it from the team bus. You can't do it from the – I mean, dude, how pathetic is it? And I doubt these guys who are making a boatload of money are really putting down heavy – I mean, I doubt they're making big bets. But, what's the point of it? And look, I am all for a society where people have the freedom to do what they want to do. But in the same respect, though, marijuana is increasingly becoming more and more legal. It doesn't mean you can show up at your job every day blazed out of your stinking mind rigging a weed. I mean, there's parameters to this stuff. And just because something may be legal, there is a time and place then for everything. And, and for these guys, and look, the Detroit Lions, they have a chance to possibly, in a lot of people's opinion, win the NFC North this year.
Yep.
3 of these guys are wide receivers. 3 of them are wide receiver. 2 are gone for the year. Jameson Williams out for the first 6 games. And if I'm the Detroit Lions right now, what do I just spent 2 months putting together a draft board, and I might need to, because now the well is dry. How am I finding guys to fill in these holes right now? Because it's really difficult. Do I now have to alter my draft board? Do I have to commit? And Detroit has 2 first-round picks. Do I have to commit a pick to a wide receiver? Because my players don't understand the ins and outs and what is legal and what is not legal to be a player in the NFL. This is a shame. This is terrible from every aspect because we learned last year from Calvin Ridley. You are not allowed to do this, and players are still continuing to do this.
I think, Jeff, what it is it's not the fact that they don't know they're not supposed to do it. I think it's the fact that they just don't think they'll get caught. I think there's been tricky little ways that people try to go about, placing bets and wagers, and it's so easy to do it from your little phone, right? You think, oh, well, let me log into my, let me log into my wife's account. Let me log into my cousin's account. Let me log into my girl's account. And let's go place a bet. I mean, really, it's only a couple $1,000s. Ain't nobody really wagering that and watching that. No, they are. Like, the NFL is $1 billion entity. They hire former FBI agents, former CIA agents, former Intel, former intelligence agencies. They raid those people, get those individuals to join the NFL, and that's why they know so much. That's why they can figure out, oh, yeah, he's using IP. He's using a unique IP over here. We can ping it back to whether or not, and they can find it out. So they're going to find out. It's just all about a matter of when they're going to find out and how long you're going to get suspended for. And honestly, is it worth it? Like, to place a wager down, is it worth it? It's crazy. It's like, just like you're gonna win a couple $1,000s. I know you might have been woofing and talking trash to your peoples, and you guys have a bet on because going back and forth about whose team is better or whatever. But listen, just be smart enough to do it off the books. If you want to bet a couple $1,000 with your buddy, like, that's off the books. Don't be getting online, typing it in and all this other stuff. It's just like sometimes people get very comfortable and lax, Jeff, when they figure that, oh, well, if it's good for everybody else, I could do it too. No, you have way more to lose. You have different set of responsibilities. And I think if you look at the Lions and you look at some of these teams, they had to start doing a better job of saying, no, we tell you once that you can't do that. But what are you going to do to continually educate your people? When I was in corporate America, or when I even worked at the radio station, we take cultural competency and we take compliance all the time. They tell us what we can and can't accept at the radio station for putting people on. They tell us the difference between payola and plugola, all that good stuff we go through, and we have to do seminars. So yeah, when people want to hit you up, I always tell them, listen, don't ask me for nothing. I'm not bringing you on a radio station. I got to go by my program director. Don't be trying to bring up your widgets or whatever little product you got that you created yesterday. Yeah, I'm not going to put you on, bro. Because it's not worth getting fired to plug somebody's stuff. And I think the gambling stuff, I think this is part of what it's going to be. Hopefully that players wisen up a little bit and realize it's just not worth it.
Well, and I'll just close with this. Whatever Jameson Williams wagered on, and this is probably how it gets nailed to it, is that they find a way to find the email address tied to the account. They find the time the wager was placed, and then you know what they can say? Well, that's interesting because we were on the bus to the airport at 4:26 on Friday. So there you go. But Jameson Williams, if you won this bet, lost this bet, was it financially better than 6 game checks as a first round pick? Ooh. Ain't no way. No way. Y'all got it. I mean, look, you want to do that? That's fine. Then don't play in the NFL. Or you want to know what? Wait till your career is over. We saw it firsthand. Bernie Kosar off of Cleveland Browns coverage. Why? Because he went on air and showed everyone and legally placed a bet. Bernie's the best. He's a great dude. Obviously, he's doing okay. All that stuff. But there's things you can and cannot do when you are associated with NFL teams. It is plain. It is simple. And, it's just a rabbit hole. And the other thing is what? You can get involved in betting all you want. House is always going to win. That's the reason casinos are still standing today.
Yes,
Jeff
sir.
Lloyd, Garrett Bush, your latest Locked On Browns. Appreciate everybody makes us your first listen and the day oneers. Again, as always, none of this would be possible without all of you. Something exciting is coming to Built.com on April 22nd. I don't have all the details yet, but the excitement is real, and it's something you do not want to miss. If you know how Built works, they have the most incredible protein bars in the world, and they do these amazing flavor drops with unreal flavors in limited quantity. So mark your calendars and head to Built.com on Saturday, April 22nd, to be one of the first to discover what all the hype is about. I can't wait to see what this new flavor is. Make sure to use the promo code LOCKEDON15 and you'll get 15% off your order.
Welcome back to the Locked On Browns podcast. Thank you for making the Locked On Browns podcast your first listen each and every day. Your team every single day. Jeff, let's get into the draft. The draft waits for nobody. And what we want to do is we want to talk about positions that we don't want to see. We've seen about we get a mock draft all the time of guys who people think Browns are gonna actually go after. And one of the things that I said is, listen, I don't need to go over the positions they should have. I'm going over the positions I don't even want to sniff if they're there. I do not need these individuals to be taken that highly, because I feel like that those picks and assets can be, placed in different areas and make more of an impact. So first, at 74.98, you got to get to the preface of understanding that 74.98 is a place in the draft where you're not getting somebody who is a finished product. You're getting guys at 74.98 that are going to make the biggest impact, or who could probably go from a guy who is a diamond in the rough to who has the most upside. They can help you out in a couple years. And so what I'm looking at is best available individuals at 74.98. And to be truthful, I don't think you can, you want to get a quarterback, defensive back, tight end, or a running back with 74.98. Now, the running back position is debatable, right? You could debate whether or not they need another running back. They do have Jerome Ford. They just drafted last year, and he has made the team. They still have Demetric Felton on this roster as well. So it doesn't look as if, they may be in the pinch for a running back. But quarterback, that's a Deshaun Watson move. We don't need to care what, we're not even looking at quarterbacks unless they need a couple camp arms that come back from, that are coming, in the summer camps, and they're just because quarterbacks get dead arm syndrome where they just can't throw the football anymore because they've thrown it so much. Also at number 74.98, I don't need a DB. You already got 3 good DBs. One good DB is talking about he wants to roll out of town because he wants to be on the outside. I'm not counting free safeties and strong safeties here. I'm not counting them. I'm just counting them as defensive backfields is constituted right now. So if I look back there and I say I got 3 corners, well, I'm not about to waste that high of a pick, especially on packaging 74.98 to get up and get something. And then tight end for me, I think the emphasis is off tight ends right now. I think the Browns have, one really good prospect in David Njoku. They just brought in a guy. I forget where he was from Texas, right?
Houston, yep.
He bigger body type dude from the Texans. They bring him in. So for me, I think this may be the year Harrison Bryant kicks the kicks the bucket, so to speak, a little bit. And then running back is the one that's actually a little bit debatable, Jeff. Like when you look at it, you think you would be set with Nick Chubb. He's 27 years old. His contract's not up to next year. You would think that if you basically pair him with a Jerome Ford, who showed me something on kickoff, who showed me a little bit of burst, I think you could be all right at that position. Would I jump up and down and jump off a roof because they drafted a running back at 74? No. But do I think it would be better served somewhere else, like a wide receiver, a linebacker, maybe somebody on the defensive front? I think that position is much more impactful than the guy you can get in the 3rd round. Your thoughts on what to do at pick 74.98?
Well, first things first. With the signing of Josh Dobbs, and look, I know the Browns have been linked to quarterbacks, and it's very, easy to, mock the draft to the Browns to taking a quarterback. You want to take one with the last pick of the draft. That's fine. Kellen Mond is still here. And look, if anybody is playing quarterback other than Deshaun Watson, and I'm not even that confident in Josh Dobbs, but if we're getting anybody after Josh Dobbs, I don't care, because this team is going to be bad. If we're going to talk the corner route, that's not something I knew early. And if you're worried about the defensive side of the ball, there's bigger needs there other than cornerback 4. We don't even know who the other starting defensive tackle is for this team to this point. Tight end. Now, this is why it doesn't need to be 74 or 98. This is a really good tight end class. Whoever you are looking to bring in here is probably going to be a little bit of a project, as far as, fine tuning, and most likely, let's see, David Njoku, full service tight end. Jordan Akins, athletic tight end, can block. You have Harrison Bryant. So in my opinion, what are you looking for? You're looking for, and we talked about the kid the other day, 6'5", 6'6", out of Cincinnati, Josh Wiley, 248 pounds. I want a straight blocker. Blocker. If anything you give me in the receiving game is gravy.
Can you
Now,
imagine? Can you imagine that monster from Georgia being a tight end tackle? Like he's just like who?
Let's just make sure he don't go. Let's just make sure he doesn't go about 3 hours down south in Ohio to Cincinnati, because that is something I am not ready for. But now running back, this is where it kind of gets interesting. Because look, even if you think Jerome Ford has game, has goods, is the goods, Jerome Ford alone cannot make up for you losing Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb, for whatever reason, is unavailable. It's a two-man gig. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody knows, oh, wow. Well, what do you mean? Well, he's out. We can just have so-and-so do it. Yep. No. If he's out, you need two. And look, I think the path for Jerome Ford here in Cleveland is good. And, I think the promise of what he did as a kickoff returner, we all saw the strong preseason. But the problem is there's Kareem Hunt. There's Dearness Johnson. You're the 5th-round rookie. Without supplanting guys we gave guaranteed money to. Jerome Ford, I think there is going to be a bigger piece of the pie this year. But this is where it's interesting for the Browns. And I reach out to everybody who follows as far as Zoom interviews, sit-downs, official visits. The Cleveland Browns basically walked out of the combine and basically haven't done much with any running back since. So you look at that one of two ways. Either A, they're not interested, or B, they've already got what they need.
And they know he's gonna be there.
This is a good group. And I've done this, and we're going to continue to do it next week. I love this running back class. I think there are a lot of guys. I think you can get a guy if you wanted in the 3rd round of 74, 4th round at 98. Third round at 98, 4th round at 111. I think you can there's value in this running back class probably up until the 6th round. The Browns don't seem to be a front office that just does things for the sake of doing them. They look at what is a good market and says, why exactly last year they drafted Martin Emerson. We can get good value with a player here. And we think this guy can make this team. Running back, in my opinion, they'd be foolish not to take one in this class because it is a really, really good group of guys. But as far as those other three, and it's not that I don't think they could draft a tight end. And, corner, they always like the corner market, but this isn't something you got to go high with this year. You're already 3 deep. Jeff Lloyd, G. Bush, your latest Locked On Browns. And we will bring you your 4th bucket of sadness of this week as we continue the Browns' biggest draft busts since 2010 here on the latest Locked On Browns. Whether it's YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have your notifications on. And as I always say, if your friends aren't there, pick up their phones and put them there, and then they will thank you later, audio side, wherever you get your podcast. We're always available, always free. Appreciate everybody who makes the Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. And, of course, to the day oneers, this doesn't exist without you.
Yes. Welcome back to the Locked On Browns podcast, your team every day. Let's get into this one. Corey Coleman, he was a kid out of Baylor, speed guy, one of those guys, Can
I just preface it with this? I loved Corey Coleman coming out of Baylor. So as much as you Browns fans are upset about Corey Coleman, I am too, because I literally thought Corey Coleman was going to be a dude in this league.
Man, he showed some flashes, but it was just never enough. It just never seemed like he kind of got it. And I want you to take a look at this clip. It was from Hard Knocks, and I think everybody was on his radar, or he put himself on everybody's radar after this exchange.
Come on, Corey! Giving up on a ball on the inside. It wouldn't hit my chest. That's about what it's been. Okay, until you show me otherwise, I'll get excited. Right now, I'm not.
I think he looks around, he's distracted, doesn't run. One of the goals, he looked like he was running 5 miles an hour. Yeah, we just got to get his brain right. Yeah.
Corey. What's happening, sports fan?
Why am I running second team?
What you said?
Why am I running second team? That shit's crazy to me.
Go get Todd in it. Go ask Todd. And then come back and come
If you don't want me to play, why won't y'all just trade me?
Training camp is underway, and while many Browns players are getting ready for their first preseason game, one player was told to pack his bags.
Yeah, the Corey Coleman experiment is over in Northeast Ohio. Within the last hour, the Browns have confirmed they're sending the 2016 first-round pick to the Bills. In exchange, the Browns will receive a late-round pick.
Adios, Cleveland.
We got a 7th round 2020 pick.
2020, bro. You know what that's like? That's like saying here.
Good gracious. Let's take a look at what his short-lived career was here in Cleveland and New York. He played 10 games his first year, 33 receptions, 413 yards, 3 touchdowns. That was horrible to start with. Like like that was just trash. And then you come back in 2017 and you're just out here moving around. You only played 9 games, 23 receptions, 56 targets, 305 yards. And then the Browns got him up out of there. Like, just to think about that and take a look at Emmanuel Ogbah and what he said. He's like, yo, that 7th round pick, that's like, here, get up out of here. We don't even need you. Don't let the door hit you, you know where. It was just a thing with Corey Coleman. Like, how do you come in and say, why am I running with the 2s? I thought I was confused. I thought it was Randy Moss, Jeff. I thought that I said, is this T.O.? Is this Randy Moss? Is this Andre Reed? Like, who is this? This guy was just like, I don't look. I've never seen somebody be so entitled with such minimal production and such a horrible laissez-faire. I'm cool. I don't even need to be here type attitude, man. I mean, it just goes to show you. It's a cautionary tale for young guys because he's driving around and got the G-Wagon and he got all the Jordans he's showing off in his house. I hope them Jordans keep you warm, dog, because right now you're at the USFL and he's actually 5th in the running for USFL MVP at this point. So what are your thoughts on Corey Coleman? And you actually thought he was dope coming out of Baylor. What did you see from him in Baylor that really intrigued you, Jeff?
Well, he was able to do everything you would hope from a receiver. He could, contribute in the short game. He can contribute in the screen game. He can contribute in the vertical game. The tape was there. And look, I've been burned by the Baylor program many, many times. And I won't even watch Baylor prospects anymore because for some reason I seem to get enamored and these guys never pan out. But the picture of the Jordans, the picture of the G-Wagon, the IG models, Corey Coleman, and this is one of the most difficult things to do as far as a team looking at a player and then saying, we like this player. We think you don't know what can happen when you hand a 21, 22-year-old kid $15, $20 million. You have no idea. And money doesn't change people. Well, you'd like to think that's the case, but you give somebody $15, $20 million, 21 years old, 22 years old. And, I'm not saying it's the norm because it's certainly not, but some people are going to go up and act a fool. And, you went into the coach's office after you had 400 yards receiving the year before and said, why am I running with the 2s? Well, and just like you said, I'm sorry. Did you have 100 receptions, 1,700 yards, and 12 touchdowns last year? Like, I mean, what was the resume? And God forbid, we embarrassed you by having you running with the 2s in practice. And then we traded you for a 7th, and he didn't even make that Bills team.
No.
He didn't even make that. He was cut later that month. He didn't even make the Bills team either. Granted, and now when he was with the Giants, I heard some things. He was better. He was more committed, and I believe it was an ACL with the Giants. But sometimes you go off the grid too far, nobody's willing to let you come back. And, that was kind of the case. And I will give him his credit because, to be doing what you're doing, going the route he is now, maybe you're a lot wiser now at this stage of the game than you were back then. But this was the guy they thought was going to be look at it, dude. He never even played with Baker. He would have been year 3. He would have been year 3 with Baker. He never even got to 2018 with Baker and Nick and these guys. Never even got there.
Did he? What is the kid's name from? Okay, Callaway. So you had this is the receiving core. You had Antonio Callaway. You had this guy, this knucklehead, Corey Coleman. Then you had Josh Gordon. Do you know what type of dysfunctional mess that is?
But also look at it this way, though. Do you know what the possible potential could have been in that room?
Could have been crazy. Could have
been. That
lethal.
could have been a top 5 wide receiver core in the league. Callaway, for all his warts, had skills. Coleman had skills. Josh Gordon was a damn animal. But at least, and I'll say this, at least Josh Gordon, his stuff was from the inside, and he kind of really can't control it. Corey Coleman, Callaway, the fires they created, they lit them. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't because of, Josh Gordon, his issue and all of that stuff, that's within, and that's a daily fight for Josh Gordon. But I mean, that could still be the Browns wide receiver room today in 2023. And everybody wants to, you want to beat up for back then and how bad things were, but they drafted ball players. You can't always count what these guys are going to turn into, and that's kind of sadly how we got here.
And most of the part, that's on your coaches. They shape the way you play the game. They shape and mold you. And so they have to. I look at it like this. Corey Coleman, he was a one-trick pony. It was like running straight, and that's not gonna cut it in the league. So I thought that was a really cool segment. And don't forget, we will tell you this on Monday's show. If you've been watching the series and you enjoy the series, we'll have the number 1 biggest Browns bust since 2010. We'll always do that. We'll come back and continue to talk about any other current events that we will get into on that day as well. And let us know what you think about the series. Did you think that this guy Corey Coleman should be higher or lower? Should he be number 1? Whatever the case may be, and we can have that dialogue. So we appreciate that. When we get back on Monday, we will do that.
No question. And we're gonna funnel in some. Obviously it'll be a ton of draft coverage next week. But one thing that we can do next week is we can start to funnel in some talk about some of the most positive Browns selections since 2010. He is Garrett Bush at GBush91, Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show panelist, Monday through Friday, 11 to 1 on YouTube. Of course, the Barbershop through 92.3 The Fan. G over there hosting, posted up. You see that tomorrow. Obviously, you can get your Cavs reaction, Guardians. I'm sure there'll be some Browns draft talk. That'll be the last episode of the Barbershop before the draft kicks off next week. Myself, Jeff Lloyd, at Jeff_LJ_Lloyd, the Locked On Browns podcast. Follow at Locked On Browns. To all the day oneers that make Locked On Browns what they are, we appreciate you. And if your friends aren't subscribed to the Locked On Browns YouTube page, make sure they are. Make sure they got the notifications on, so when the content drops, they are there to consume it. Audio-wise, wherever you get your podcasts, always available, always free. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB on the LOB. Let's go, Browns.